I remember the exact words, crisp and casual, thrown over a dinner plate, as if they were nothing. The best gift would be you disappearing. He didn't even look at me when he said it, just a flicker of amusement in his eyes, like it was a clever joke meant for someone else. A week before his birthday, and I felt the air in the room shift, though nothing physically moved. I stayed seated, forks paused mid-air. My wife's attention flitted between us, unsure how to respond, unsure if silence was complicity or prudence. I said nothing. That was the first instinct, silence. The second was calculation. I didn't know if I was angry or simply tired. Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. Over the next few days, I watched the house as though it were a subtle machine of micro-aggressions and invisible rules. Small things, the way he ignored my presence at breakfast, the soft clatter of dishes when I approached, the casual dismissals. Each action was minor, individually insignificant, but together they formed a quiet wall between us. I could have argued, raised my voice, tried to negotiate, but something inside me recoiled at the idea. If I reacted, I would concede a kind of vulnerability that I wasn't willing to expose. I started going through my routines methodically. I logged into my online accounts, quietly assessed finances, subscriptions, things that marked my personal space and identity in this household. Each click was deliberate, measured. There was a calm in this preparation, a sense of reclaiming control through the mundane. No dramatic gestures, no confrontation. Just precise action. The evening before his birthday, I packed a small box of items I owned, a few personal belongings, a notebook I had kept for years, some trivial but meaningful objects. I left them on the table where he would eventually notice, arranged neatly as if by habit. No notes, no final words. Only presence turned into absence. I watched him that night from the living room doorway, pretending to read, pretending to check messages, while he flitted around in anticipation of gifts. There was a peculiar tension in his gait that I noticed, expectation mingled with entitlement, the kind of confidence that only comes from assuming someone else will always be there to fill gaps, to absorb his moods. Morning came. His birthday. The sun slanted across the kitchen in long golden beams, illuminating the box on the table. He saw it immediately. A small pause, then a frown, then confusion. I was there, silent. My wife was there, silently absorbing the same moment. No shouting, no drama, just the quiet, unspoken shift of power. He lifted an item, a notebook I had carried everywhere, and for a fraction of a second, the boy I had tried to reach was visible in his expression. Bewilderment, disbelief, and an unspoken question. How could this have happened without warning? I said nothing. I simply observed, noting the shift. It was not revenge. I do not take pleasure in the shock on his face. It is the neutral, almost sterile satisfaction of boundaries acknowledged, a lesson in quiet self-respect, not a moral lecture. My dignity did not require applause, nor did it demand that he understand fully. It only required that I act in accordance with my own sense of worth. Later, when my wife asked if I wanted to explain, I refused. I did not need to narrate the decision or justify the act. The household had already felt the subtle authority in the absence, the invisible line drawn in a space that had previously felt limitless. In the hours that followed, the house's rhythm changed. The casual dismissals lessened, not entirely gone, but moderated. There was a careful attention in the air, a sense that someone had recalibrated, had quietly claimed their place without needing to shout it from the rooftops. I spent that day in reflection. Alone in the quiet of my own space, I realized that absence can speak with more weight than presence. Silence can carry authority. Withdrawal can recalibrate a room faster than confrontation ever could. There is a paradox here. The act of stepping back, of retreating, is simultaneously an assertion of control. I also understood my limitations. This was not a fairy tale of transformation. He is still my wife's son, still entitled in ways shaped by years of unchallenged habits. I do not expect immediate understanding or gratitude. The outcome is not absolute victory, nor is it an emotional collapse. It is subtle, it is internal, it is quiet, and it is enough. By evening, the household had settled into a tentative equilibrium. Conversations were polite, interactions measured. The birthday candles had been lit, gifts exchanged, but I had no part in the celebration. That was the point. I was present in absence, a paradox that only a few might understand without explanation. And I noticed, finally, that my own shoulders felt lighter. My hands, unburdened. My mind, uncluttered by the need to appease or negotiate respect that had been ignored. This was the unexpected reward, the clarity of self-possession. I do not know what will happen tomorrow. Perhaps the tension will return. Perhaps the old patterns will resurface. But for now, the line has been drawn, quietly, calmly, without spectacle. A week before his birthday, a simple remark had threatened to destabilize me, but a measured response restored a sense of order that words alone could never have achieved. It was not triumph in the traditional sense. It was personal growth in the most restrained, deliberate way. Dignity regained without spectacle. Authority asserted without declaration. Respect extracted not through dominance but through the silent consequence of consistent, intentional action. I stayed for dinner that evening, observing without intruding, participating without engaging. And in that balance, I understood something essential. True self-respect does not require recognition, only constancy. Quiet authority does not need applause. And sometimes, the most powerful act is to leave the table with nothing said at all. This was the gift I left on the table,